Give it up for Kinga Philipps.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, this is awesome. I mean, I only sort of joke that I Instagram stalk you and have a crush on you, but that's all right. It's true because
It's mutual.
Well, no, that's thank you. So flattered and blushing. But every time I do love your Instagram because you're always going and doing rad things, and I don't know if it's just maybe ADD or you're just always out and about too, just like me. But where'd you just get back from?
Where did I just get back from? I was just out in Catalina the weekend before doing free diving and attempted spearfishing. I will not say that I actually spearfished or killed anything. I swam around with a gun going, I will not kill my friend. I will not kill my friend. Move it away from him. Move it away from him.
You know, career as a journalist, as a TV host, you've done stuff like we said, Travel Channel, and I want to acknowledge really quick, because you mentioned to me that with Travel Channel, with Wildside, the show you hosted, you were the first ever, this is amazing, first ever female adventure show host.
On that network.
On Travel Channel. That's pretty amazing, though.
It's
No, hold on. That's rad.
It is rad and it's awesome. It's also a little crazy that it took that long.
True.
Because there are still mandates for networks to this day that are honestly really disappointing when it comes to women in the travel space. But there are a lot of us, Angela Sun. I mean, there are so my producing partner, Carla Cavalli. Like, there are definitely a lot of us women in that space. But Travel Channel gave me that honor of being the first adventure female on their network, and that was just a couple years ago. So yay, but also what the hell?
True. There's both sides of that. All right, Travel Channel aside, I want to get into you as the traveler. So I'm going to put up some images of you. So the thing I love about, and I'm going to just get into the Instagram following of you because it's the truth, is that one moment you're in the mountains or chasing a sunset, and then we'll talk about the ocean next. And I talk a lot about your sunsets because I know you're like a sunset chaser like I am, and this is true. Is I've texted Kinga before and been like, where should I go camping? Where should I go? And the top left,
you found that spot.
I actually found that spot, and I sent her the picture of me in that spot, which for some reason the picture didn't come out when I put it in the slide. Where are some of the places you love to go?
I mean, I think we are so freaking fortunate that we live in Southern California. And the fact that we have the mountains, the deserts, the ocean at our back door is incredible. I mean, for us, you want desert? Great. Joshua Tree, Anza Borrego, Death Valley, so incredible. You want forests, you want huge trees, like you can go up to Big Sur, so spectacular. Idlewild, even, like this hidden gem that a lot of people don't really know about. Like the Sierras, oh my God, Johnny Bell and I were panning for gold in the Sierras.
Love that video, by the way.
Great, right? He actually found like a nugget, and then I dropped it, and I could tell he was really mad at me. But I think it was full score. But the Sierras are ridiculous. I mean, from the lakes to the mountains to my friend Lorenzo and I went up, and we were talking to the locals, which, like Dave mentioned, talk to people when you go, and the immersion of that, like talk to other campers, talk to people on the road. That's one of my favorite things. And this kid came up and he was like, you guys need to go check out these hot springs. And we drove up and they were called the Buckeye Hot Springs. Some of you have probably been there. And they were the absolute coolest springs, and they are about 50 miles north of Mammoth. And there's 3 pools, 2 up top and 1 in the river. And we made so many friends. Like that night we camped, and this guy comes over to our tent later and he goes, yeah, I've been living here for 2 months. I'm a fire eater. And we're like, of course you are. This is why camping rules. So you meet the coolest people and you find the coolest places.
That's amazing. I want to go to Buckeye.
You should.
I really
You'll write
do.
that down, guys. Buckeye Hot Springs, amazing. Truly cool.
Where else do you still want to go around camping? Is there anywhere
around here
in California you still want to go?
I have done so much with our Southern California, and like I said, the mountains and the deserts and the oceans. Oh my God, Catalina. I'm going out to Santa Cruz Island the weekend after next because I wanna like molest the foxes, which apparently are there in abundance, and do all the different hikes. I have not done as much in Northern California as I would like to, and I think Northern California and then that border leading on up is just so spectacular. And we've got, oh my gosh, we have like parks and protected areas, and BLM land, Bureau of Land Management, is one of my favorite things in the world. And the fact that you can go out on that and you can camp for free, and you can hike and explore and adventure is just the neatest thing. Like, we are so lucky with the national parks and the state parks and the public lands that we have. Carrizo Plains, like, remember this last year, everyone was like, the super bloom, it's amazing. And Carrizo Plains National Monument, which I had never heard of before, was gangbusters, the best flowers I've ever seen in my life. It's on my Instagram.
So I actually went to it because of it. That's a whole other story. We are pretty lucky living here in California. But so you're originally from Oklahoma, originally from Poland. Grew up in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So besides being like a huge fan of being in the mountains, desert, anywhere, chasing sunsets, you're also a big water baby.
Yeah.
Where did that love for the water come from growing up in Oklahoma?
You know, we came here from Poland. We didn't have a lot of money. We were the Griswolds, and we would just vacation in this big blue van that we had, and we were fully the Griswolds. My dad would take photos of us with roadkill because he thought it was really cool. He'd make me stand next to alligators. It's really dangerous. Like, he'd probably be in jail nowadays. But we would always go down to Florida or Padre Island, and we would play this game of who could see the ocean first. And it was kind of this like marvelous little thing. And we didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't stay in hotels. We stayed in KOA campgrounds, and they were almost always on the beach. And it was I would not trade that for the world. And then being in that warm Florida water, or going down to Padre Island off of Texas and collecting sand dollars, something in that like really resonated with me. And then I was telling you the other day that I was not allowed to watch any horror movies at home, as you shouldn't allow your children. But I went to my friend's house and I watched Jaws, and I got so terrified that for the next, a couple of years, I refused to go in water where I couldn't see the bottom. So I wouldn't go in the ocean anymore when we went to Florida. I wouldn't go in pools. Like, I didn't really like taking baths. I still don't. And then that fear kind of turned into fascination, because I really started to question why I was so terrified of them, and that kind of sent me on a journey into the ocean and sharks and all the marvelous creatures therein.
Well, let's get to that. So I have some of your other water pictures up that I wanted to put up. I wanted to touch on one thing before we get into the sharks, because sharks is such a big part of your life.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get into that in a second, but something you mentioned actually in the video that I watched the video several times, but you talk about these perfect moments, right? And I kept hearing it and thinking about like my travel meeting moments, like it's the magic. And I want you to describe, like, to you, what are some of these perfect moments?
I think travel is kind of like the jet boil of the five senses. You know, when you're in your routine at home, no matter how great it is where you live, like we're so lucky, Venice, Malibu, it's amazing, but those five senses that we have that are such an integral part of who we are, they start to get dulled a little bit. And I find that when you're traveling, they're activated, like they're on fire. Everything is just firing. And those perfect moments are the moments that those five senses really come together, and you have almost like this euphoric experience of something that will live in your memory forever. And sometimes it makes you want to cry, sometimes it makes you want to laugh, sometimes it makes you want to take an Instagram photo, or or just connect with the person that's there. I was in Isla Halbosh diving with whale sharks earlier this year with Mina and Sophia, and then my sister. And we got in the water, and it was just the four of us, and there were 15 whale sharks around us. And at one point, which is pretty uncanny, because I've done that dive a couple times, and it's usually you and a bazillion like tourist soup in life jackets, so we got super lucky. And at one point, I was swimming, and my sister was swimming, and a whale shark came between us, and the two of us waved to each other from atop a whale shark, and we were like, holy shit. That was one of the coolest moments that I think I'll ever have in my life. And that is a perfect moment.
That is absolutely, I love the way you just described that, all your senses. It really is kind of like that wow, holy shit moment.
Yeah.
Whether it's that sunset or the whale shark, it's like, I'm experiencing that. Here,
You're experiencing life.
I'm so present. Like the way you start that video, we're like, I'm present to this now moment of everything that's happening here in this moment is never going to be, whether it's the whale shark or a sunset or something.
You're never more present than when you're traveling. Like, you gesting the quintessence of a place and feeling it, like sensing it, like letting it roll over you.
What does travel mean to you?
What does travel mean to me? Gosh, travel is, you could go to college for 100 years and you're not going to learn what you do with travel. I mean, the meeting of incredible characters, the having those five senses fire, the challenging yourself, the being put in positions where you just don't think you're going to make it out of there, like having to find your own car, right?
Survival.
survival. There are so many lessons that you learn on the road, and I think the best thing that it truly gives you is perspective. It gives you a perspective on life and what's important. I think all of us sitting in this room, living in Los Angeles, we fight that a lot. You know, I'm guessing that those of us who came to something like this are probably a lot more in touch with their perspective-seeking selves. But we live in a city where everyone judges you by what you wear and how much money you make and the car you drive and where you eat and, you know, what you do on the weekends. And I think having a solid perspective on what truly makes you happy and what makes you connect with other people and what makes you connect with life in general is the most valuable thing you can have.
Back to those priceless moments, right? So the thing that really makes you feel alive.
It makes you feel alive.
Right? And just
in an
that
authentic
reminder.
way.
And again,
Yeah.
we're blessed and we're lucky to live here in Southern California
Yeah.
and all these things, but you know, I imagine with you definitely get kind of antsy and get on the road from time to time.
I get antsy all the time.
All the time.
Ants in my pants, big time.
Ants in the pants. So some of these amazing shots of you in the water, I love. What I want to come back to is this whole shark thing, right? Because I think there are a few people that, you know, you touched on, you had this fear of being in the water for sharks, and then you started looking into, well, what was the fear from? And not only did you look into that, you went and did your first dive, right? You did, how many dives have you done now with great whites?
Oh God. With great whites and specific in Guadalupe, I've done 3 and then going back out again this year.
Okay, so I'm going to put this picture up. So, but I'm putting this picture up because I'm going to talk about this. This is something I've always wanted to do for so many reasons. One, because I think it's fascinating. I think it's that perfect moment. I also think I would shit myself on so many levels because I think it's just
and that's totally okay, by the way.
But
we don't judge.
It's like Dave talking about the grizzly bear. I mean, you are just in awe of the presence of that amazing, animal. Just the sheer power and beauty of the shark. What happened when you kind of turned that switch from fear to passion?
Well, fear is an interesting thing, first off, because I think whenever you do fear something, you should really question why you fear it. And especially with sharks, and that's why they've kind of become a life mission.
And this
of
is
mine.
you, by the way, right?
That is me. That is me with my handy dandy underwater cell phone holder, courtesy of Mina, that gets great photos, by the way. iPhone 7, waterproof. But I think when you fear something, you should definitely question why you fear it and really dig beneath that at the roots of what is that fear, because usually it's not what you think it is. And we have very much been programmed by the media, by Jaws, by Shark Week, to think that sharks are the most terrifying thing that could ever happen to you. I think the 405 is the most terrifying thing that ever happened to you, but most people think sharks. And when I started to really question that and get in the water with them and spend time with them, I realized that was like the biggest load of BS that you could ever be fed, ever. And like with most things, when you really get to experience it on a personal level like that, you completely change your perspective. And I've been in the water with great whites. Angela's son and I went to Banga Lagoon in Fiji with the bull sharks. I've been with tigers in Hawaii, and they are such incredible animals. And to be in the water with them and have this giant beast of an animal come by the cage and look every single person in the cage in the eye. And their eyes aren't black. They're not dead black eyes. They they have the black, like, the inner part. What's that, the iris? Pupil. Thank you, folks. Pupil. And then they are blue rimmed around that. And they're so beautiful. And you sense this intelligence and this energy from this other creature that's there to look at you and really doesn't care about you otherwise. It's pretty special.
It's pretty crazy. So you've done it 3 times. You're going back.
You're
going back on a really special trip. Share about this trip.
I am. So I the first time I ever went out to Guadalupe, I went out 5 years ago.
Tell us, so if you don't know where Guadalupe is.
Sorry. So Guadalupe Island, Mexico is the premier place in the world to see great white sharks. You can go out to the Farallon Islands, you can go to South Africa, but the water is a little bit turbid. You're not going to get the great visibility. You go out to Guadalupe and it looks like this. Like, your water is 70 degrees. It's beautiful. You get like 70 to 100 feet visibility, and it's like guaranteed massive shark action. There are a couple people in here, my friend Paula, who went with me 2 years ago, who can attest to that. It's pretty spectacular. And the season runs from August to November. I recommend the start of the season because you get like the males, and they're real fun because they're like dudes. They're kind of aggro. They're like, hey, who's in the cage? I want to see. And then the end of the season, like November, they call it the time of the Titans, and that's when the huge females show up. And these are like the 18-footers that you see on Shark Week, and they're so spectacular. So I've been going out there for 5 years, and the first time I went out as a tourist, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. And because I work in shark conservation and with a group called Shark Allies, and I'm a journalist, so I write about this stuff, the guys started inviting me back, and then would invite my friends as well. And then this year, what's so neat is that over the years we've realized that in the shark conservation space, it's mostly women leading the charge. And on most of the trips that I've been out on, they're always like really badass women coming out, like very often by themselves, like super cool, with hashtag adventure like a girl, these women coming out like as bucket listers, underwater photographers. And so we thought, why don't we start offering trips led by women for women? So myself and Stephanie Brendel, who is infinitely cooler than I am, and she used to have a shark diving business on the North Shore of Hawaii, and she's kind of my mentor in the shark world, and she's the starter of Shark Allies. Her and I are going to go out, and we're going to be leading a couple trips this September for women to Guadalupe.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Kinga has all that information on her Facebook, website, all that stuff. You said so the leading shark conservationists are all female. A lot of them.
A lot of them, yeah.
It's interesting. Why would you think that is?
I don't know why that is. It's interesting because there's a series that I write for an outlet called Real Clear Life, and one of the series I write is called the Real Life Laura Croft series, and it's about amazing women like Mermaid Linden right there, who I featured. But I've been finding all these incredible underwater photographers and conservationists and women who work specifically in the shark space. And it's really fascinating to me because what Shark Week tells us is that the shark world is dominated by these really aggro dudes, and they're out there and they're swimming with sharks and they're super badass, and that's true. There are a lot of really cool men in the shark space, but I found there are so many women, and I don't know if it's women in conservation. Maybe there's an energy there, a compassion there, but they really do gravitate towards it, and they kick ass in that space. I mean,
you always put such a good spin on whether it's your stuff you're writing for Real Clear or anywhere. I love watching the videos you make. I think you put such an intelligent, conscious, but really direct approach on things. Any of those other stories you want to share that either are coming up that you're working on that you're passionate about, or something in the past that a story that you've done that you think people would really benefit learning from?
Well, I think in the last probably 8 months that I've been writing the Real Life Laura Croft series, I mean, we're all aware
of, which is
of
amazing, by the way. I highly recommend, just because I'm cutting you off because, again, I gush over you because
that's okay.
Your stuff is really, it's not just a story or fluff. It's got so much passion and authenticity and just real shit to it.
Well, that's because I'm actually excited to be writing it. Like, I'm one thing that has always been me is if I don't like it, I can't do it. And so Real Clear Life has been great to me because I came and I pitched them these series, and so I actually really love writing them, and I get so excited writing about these women. So the Real Life Laura Croft series features like badass women from people with incredible careers to underwater photographers, mountain climbers. We have dog sled racers who are riding the Iditarod, like just incredible women across the world. The other series that I write for them is it's called Off the Beaten Path, A Modern Nomad's Guide to a World Less Traveled. And that's my experiences in going off the grid. When I travel, I can't do resorts. I can't hang out. I can't do all-inclusive. I mean, great, I get it. Like, if that gets people to travel, it's fantastic. But my way of traveling is to never pre-book anything. It is to truly go to the places that are far more off the grid. My sister and I are going to in Iceland in April, and I think Blue Lagoon is probably awesome. We're renting a van and doing the entire ring road and trying to find all the different hot springs that people, there aren't a million people in. So that's my approach to travel and why I write those series. But I've been lucky, from Nat Geo to Travel Channel, like they've really kind of given me projects that are very much in my wheelhouse, that are cool, about history and women's travel and authentic travel and cool characters, across the world.
I know you said you have some projects coming up that you can't really get into right now, so we'll have to maybe even a little bit you can share, or just...
Well, one thing that's really cool when you've been in the TV business for 17 years is you get to the point where you actually start to develop your own projects. And part of that is connections, and part of it is, I've been so lucky that people have brought me on to do like The Wild Side or Real or Lost Treasures for National Geographic. But at some point you start to get a little bit more picky, and you've had these great experiences, and you start to really see what you want to bring to an audience. So there are a couple projects that I'm working on, and one, we're developing a shark series, which is neat, with these super cool scientists who I actually met on the shark dive to Guadalupe 2 years ago, and they are just as badass as it gets. I call them the heroes in neoprene, and they are the guys who are like, I discovered a new species of hammerhead in Belize last week. I'm like, I want to be you. They're really awesome, and this show is based on the research that they're doing and the work that they're doing in Hong Kong and Asian markets with the fin trade, the shark fin trade. And what they have been able to do is they now have the technology to be able to identify from organic samples of material from shark fin soup, from markets, from onboard boats. They can test the material on the spot, shark fins, shark parts, and say, oh, okay, you said you sustainably fish this. Well, this is actually a great hammerhead, and you shouldn't have this on your boat. So where did this come from? So it's
Wow.
really, really cool.
All right, so we're definitely going to look out for that. Something else, so you're definitely a very passionate conservationist. I want to talk about this, a campaign you're working on right now with Shark Allies as well. I want to explain a little bit about the...
So this is actually very simple. I mean, you guys have probably heard that California is like trying to ban the straw, and that's great. That's awesome. But we have, along with a lot of other really cool organizations, have taken kind of a more grassroots approach. And to me, the straw thing, like, it fucking kills me, guys. Sorry, I shouldn't curse. It kills me. And it's also such a simple fix. You know, it's these plastic little pieces of nothingness that none of us really need. I understand there is a demo that does. There are people with disabilities who need them. There are people with children who need them. If that's a tiny piece of the market, and even then there are sustainable options. You can do, so many different things. Paper, you can do metal straws. But the rest of us who are consuming over 500,000 straws a day,
Wow.
most of us don't need to do that. A, they give you wrinkles. B, it's just, they're not recyclable, and the reason that they're not is because they're honestly too small. When they go, even though the plastic that is used to make straws could actually be recycled, when they go into the sorting machine, they're too small, so they fall through. So really, these things just get dumped. And to me, to go into restaurants, and that's what we're doing with Shark Allies and the X Straws campaign, is we're just asking restaurants to say, don't give straws unless someone asks. Like when I sit down in a restaurant and I order water, I just say no straw, please. And that's it, because most of us, if a straw is dropped into your drink, you're probably not going to use it anyway, but once it's dropped in there, it's used, so they have to toss it. So it's the simplest ask, like, no straws, please. And then, why not give straws unless someone requests them? If someone really needs them, that's totally fine.
I wanted to bring this up because we are in a room of conscious, travelers who really do care not only just about the environment, but about how we can make a difference. And I wanted to bring this up because, like I said, I really do just admire not just your travel, but what you stand for and how passionately you articulate everything from the shark fin problem to no straws and ways we can really make a difference there. Besides Iceland, where else do you still want to go?
I have, so for this year, I have Iceland lined up. I want to go to Sri Lanka. There's some good whale diving to be had. And I did Cuba this year, but I want to go back and I want to dive the Gardens of the Queen. Because it's for me, it's about a lot of the finding the untouched places, because unfortunately a lot of our planet has been touched extensively, and especially the underwater parts. So to find places where the habitats are still unspoiled is pretty incredible. We did Cabo Pulmo this past year. That's a little unheard of spot. Like if you fly into Cabo San Lucas, you drive 2 hours to the Sea of Cortez, and Cabo Pulmo is an incredible marine preserve. Probably actually go back there again this year because I love that one.